Before we start, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It was my 34th birthday, the kind that makes you pause. Not quite a milestone, but old enough to start taking stock. Claire, my wife of 4 years, had pulled out all the stops, rented the rooftop lounge of the Metropolitan in downtown Seattle. Black marble bar, string lights, catered sushi, a live trio playing Coldplay covers and jazz. It was beautiful, but halfway through the night, something felt off. Jenna, Claire's best friend since college, loud, funny, brutally honest, was nowhere in sight. I scanned the crowd again, just to be sure. Everyone was there, my coworkers, her gallery friends, even that one cousin who always found a way to talk politics at parties. But no Jenna. I leaned close to Claire, who was laughing with 2 of her friends by the bar, and murmured, "Hey, have you seen Jenna? Did something happen?" Claire's smile froze. For a second, I saw something twitch in her eyes. Irritation? Panic? "She couldn't make it," she said tightly. "She had a migraine or something. Can you not do this now?" Her tone was sharp enough to make her friends glance at each other. I frowned. "She didn't text. I just want to make sure she's okay," I replied, already reaching for my phone. Claire's expression shifted. Her voice dropped, sharp and low. "Ethan," I said, "drop it." That tone hit harder than it should have. Not just because she was mad, but because she was afraid. Not for Jenna. For me knowing where Jenna was. "I'll just call her real quick." "Ethan," Claire hissed. "Seriously? You're doing this? Here? Now?" The jazz trio kept playing. Glasses clinked, but a few heads turned. People noticed. Claire stepped closer, her perfume sharp, her voice like static. "You always do this. You can't let things go. Just enjoy the night for once." I looked at her, really looked, and saw it wasn't frustration in her eyes. It was guilt. "I'll be quick," I said flatly, and tapped Jenna's name on my screen. Claire's hand shot out and smacked the phone from my fingers. The room tilted. Conversations faltered. My phone hit the floor with a sharp clatter that echoed louder than the music. "Wow," I said softly. "So I'm not even allowed to call your best friend now?" Claire bent to grab the phone, cheeks flushed, not with embarrassment, but rage. "Stop making a scene." "A scene? You slapped my phone out of my hand in front of 30 people," I said, keeping my voice even. "I just asked a question." She stepped closer, smile frozen, eyes like ice. "If you don't want to ruin your own birthday, you'll stop acting like a paranoid child." I looked at her, then at the circle of watching guests. My friends, my colleagues, the people who came to celebrate with me, now quietly pretending not to stare. I forced a tight smile. "Of course," I said. "Wouldn't want to upset the hostess." I took my phone and walked away toward the glass railing overlooking the city. And in that silence, with the lights of Seattle stretching out below and the faint taste of anger in my mouth, something clicked. This wasn't about Jenna's absence. It was about Claire's fear of what Jenna might say. And I wasn't the only one who felt it. When I turned my head, I saw one of her friends whisper something behind a wine glass, casting a glance toward Claire. This night wasn't a celebration. It was a performance. And someone in the cast was missing. What I didn't know then, what I couldn't know, was that Jenna's silence was only the beginning. Something was coming that would change everything. Later that night, the fight was brushed under the rug, smoothed over by forced smiles and a new round of cocktails. But I hadn't forgotten. Neither had Claire. The tension between us hung like humidity in the air, just dense enough to feel without quite naming it. Still, she had a show to run, and Claire knew how to work a room. She laughed louder than usual, clinked glasses with friends she couldn't stand, and pretended nothing had happened. And when she caught my eye from across the lounge, her smile was as wide as ever, but I knew her well enough to see the fracture behind it. Just past 10:30, the jazz trio paused mid-song. Claire clapped twice, delicate, commanding, and the lights dimmed slightly. "I know we're all here to celebrate Ethan," she began, lifting her champagne glass. "So if you'll indulge me for just a second," she turned toward me, all eyes now on us, and motioned for me to join her near the cake. I walked over slowly, wary of what she was planning. Claire's voice brightened. "Ethan, you're the most grounded, generous, quietly brilliant man I know." The guests awed on cue. My jaw clenched. She wasn't wrong, but coming from her, it felt like flattery with strings. She reached into a sleek black box on the table and lifted it with a dramatic flair. "And I wanted to give you something special this year. Something as dependable and timeless as you." She opened the box. A Rolex. The crowd gasped. Someone whistled. Another voice, probably Greg from her father's firm, said, "Damn, Holston money hits different." I swallowed and stepped forward. She held the box out to me like it was some ancient artifact. "Claire, go ahead," she smiled. "Try it on." I slipped the watch onto my wrist, the weight heavy and cold. Everyone applauded. I nodded, smiled, even chuckled softly like I was touched. I even gave her a quick kiss on the cheek, which she returned with perfect timing. But in my chest, nothing moved. I stared down at the gold band gleaming under the lounge lights. It was stunning, sure, but it wasn't me. I wore a Fitbit. My laptop was secondhand. My suits were tailored, yes, but bought with care, not splurged for show. Claire's family was in another world entirely. Her father, George Holston, ran one of the most powerful venture groups on the West Coast. Old money, new tech. Their name opened doors and closed mouths. The Rolex wasn't just a gift, it was a message. A message I couldn't quite decode, but one I felt all the way down. I leaned in and whispered, "Why this?" Claire smiled for the crowd and murmured through her teeth, "Because you've earned it. And because it looks good on someone who knows when to shut up." I pulled back slightly, the smile on my face now entirely manufactured. No one noticed. They were too busy filming, snapping pics, complimenting her taste. I raised the glass in a quick toast and said the polite thing. "To Claire, for making me feel like $1,000,000 tonight." More laughter. Another round of applause. But the moment I stepped away, I loosened the band, just enough to feel like myself again. Back near the bar, my friend Marcus nudged me. "Rolex, huh? Fancy life you're living now." "Yeah," I said, rolling the watch slightly on my wrist. "Almost makes you forget what's missing." Marcus blinked. "What do you mean?" "Nothing," I lied, sipping my drink. Just thinking out loud. But in that moment, under the warm buzz of the rooftop lights and the illusion of elegance, I felt it stronger than ever. This wasn't a celebration. It was a cover-up. And that Rolex? That wasn't love. It was hush money. 3 days later, my apartment felt too quiet. Claire was supposedly on a girls' vacation in Palm Springs. Sun, spa, silence. Her suitcase had rolled out the door like nothing was wrong. That afternoon, my phone buzzed. A text from Jenna. Outside. I stared at it, heart thumping. I hadn't told her my schedule. Hadn't invited her. I stepped to the door, then stopped myself and called Claire instead. She answered on the second ring, breezy. "Hey, birthday boy. Miss me yet?" I kept my voice light. "Quick question. Jenna just showed up. Isn't she with you?" There was a pause, sharp, electric. "What?" Claire snapped. I said Jenna. "Ethan," she shrieked, the calm gone. "Don't let her in. Do you hear me? Don't open the door." I pulled the phone from my ear, stunned. "Why would I? Just don't," she yelled. "Tell her to leave. I mean it." The line went dead. I stood there, phone buzzing in my hand, my pulse loud in my ears. Then the doorbell rang, hard, impatient. I opened it. Jenna stormed in like a gust of cold air. Her eyes were red, jaw clenched, hands shaking as she kicked the door shut behind her. "So she lied to you too," she said. "Of course she did." "Jenna," I said slowly, "what's going on?" She laughed, short, bitter. "You still defending her?" "Wow." "I'm not defending anyone," I replied. "You show up unannounced. Claire loses her mind. Tells me not to let you in. That tracks," Jenna cut in. She always panics when the truth walks in. My chest tightened. "Just say it. Whatever it is." She pulled out her phone and shoved it toward me. "Read." I scrolled. My stomach dropped. Messages. Voice notes. Bragging. Laughing. He has no idea. Seattle men are so predictable. A girl's trip buys me time. A watch shuts him up. I looked up. "This isn't." "Oh, it is," Jenna said, voice breaking. "She sent these to me. Like it was funny. Like you were a prop." I kept scrolling. Dates. Names. Smug confidence. "She told me you'd never push back," Jenna continued. "That your dignity was manageable." I swallowed hard. "Why tell me now?" Jenna's eyes flashed. "Because she crossed me. She tried to pin it on me. Said I was the one who couldn't keep my mouth shut. Then she blocked me." I set the phone down, hands numb. "So you came here." "I came because you deserve to know," she said. "And because I'm done being her alibi." Silence filled the room. The hum of the fridge. The city outside. I finally spoke. "Did you know about the watch?" Jenna nodded once. "She called it a pressure valve." Her words. I leaned back against the counter, the room tilting. And the trip? Cover, Jenna said flatly. For her, not for me. My phone buzzed again, Claire calling back. I didn't answer. Jenna watched me carefully. You okay? I exhaled, slow and steady. No, but I'm awake. She slipped the phone back into her pocket. Good. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. I nodded, the truth settling like ice. The door was still open, and nothing felt safe anymore. The next morning, the locks on the apartment door still clicked the same. The coffee still brewed. The sun still came up over Puget Sound like it didn't care what exploded in my life the day before. But I had changed. I was sitting at the kitchen table, Jenna's screenshots printed and spread out before me. Each message felt like a cut. Sharp, personal, deliberate. Then I heard the front door unlock. Claire strolled in like nothing had happened. Designer sunglasses, luggage wheeled behind her, oversized iced coffee in one hand. She didn't even close the door fully before speaking. You changed the thermostat again, she said, glancing at her phone. It was freezing in here when I landed. I didn't respond. I just watched her. She set her drink down and started peeling off her coat. God, SeaTac is a disaster. And by the way, I saw that Jenna tried calling me again. Stalker vibes. I said nothing. She turned, finally noticing the papers on the table. Her expression didn't change, but her eyes darted, fast. What's that? I leaned back, calm. You tell me. Claire walked over, pretending to be amused, flipping a page with one long manicured nail. Wow, Ethan, are we printing receipts now? Feeling dramatic? She picked up one screenshot, the one where she wrote, he has no idea. He's still playing husband while I play options. Claire laughed softly. God, Jen is so bitter. She'd nuke a wedding just because she wasn't in the photo album. I stood slowly, facing her fully. You wrote that. She rolled her eyes. Ethan, grow up. People exaggerate. Joke. Vent. You're really going to throw away everything over a few messages taken out of context? No, I said calmly. I'm going to file for divorce. Claire blinked. For the first time since she walked in, her mask slipped just slightly. You're what? I'm filing, I repeated. Today? The silence was immediate and stunning. Then, just as quickly, Claire snorted. Oh, please. You? File for divorce? She folded her arms, her confidence surging again. Do you even know how? I already spoke to a lawyer, I said. Everything's in motion. That got her attention. She stepped closer, her voice lower now. Don't be stupid. Too late for that, I replied. I married you. She stiffened. Her eyes narrowed. You think you're going to walk away from this clean? I don't care about clean, I said. I care about done. She stared at me, then tilted her head and smiled. Not kindly. You really think you're prepared to go up against me? Against my father? I'm not afraid of George, I said. And if he taught you to act like this, maybe it's time someone in your world said enough. Her smile faltered, just for a second. You'll lose everything, she whispered. Your name, your job, your dignity, all of it. I'll make sure of that. I stared into her eyes and spoke quietly. Then I guess I'll find out who I am without any of it. Claire opened her mouth to say something else, but nothing came. The silence between us stretched long and cold. She finally reached for her drink and walked out of the kitchen. But this time, she didn't look back. And I didn't follow. For the first time in our marriage, I wasn't chasing the peace. I was the peace. It happened the next evening, just after sunset, in the concrete quiet beneath my condo. I had one hand on my car door when a voice said, Mr. Reed. I turned. That was my mistake. Someone slammed into my shoulder. Another grip locked my arm. The world tilted, sharp and fast. Hey, I started. Easy, a muffled voice said. Don't make this harder. A hood came down over my head. Rubberized. Smelled like oil and dust. My phone hit the pavement. I heard it skitter away. Walk, someone ordered. I'm not. My feet moved anyway. The grip tightened. A door slid open. I was pushed inside and dropped onto a seat. The door slammed. Silence. Then the low hum of an engine. The hood came off. I blinked, eyes adjusting to the dim interior of a black van. Two men sat across from me, faces covered, still as furniture. Then a third voice spoke from the front, smooth and familiar. Seatbelts, gentlemen. The van rolled. I leaned forward, heart pounding. This is illegal. A chuckle. Everything's illegal if you call it that. The partition slid open. George Halston turned in his seat, and smiled like he was greeting a waiter who'd messed up an order. "Ethan," he said, "you look thinner." I met his eyes. "Let me out." He waved a hand. "We'll be quick. I'm a busy man." One of the masked men shifted. George held up a finger. "Gentle." Then to me. "I hear you're filing paperwork." "I am," I said. "You kidnapped me to discuss filing?" George sighed, disappointed. "Such a blunt word. We're talking. You're listening." "I'm not listening," I replied. "I'm documenting." That got a laugh from the front seat. George's smile thinned. "You always did think you were clever. Claire said that was your charm." "Claire lies," I said. "You raised her." His eyes hardened. "Watch it." I leaned back. "Make me." Silence pressed in. The van turned. City lights slid across the windows like nervous thoughts. George spoke again, quieter now. "Withdraw the divorce. We'll make this unpleasant chapter disappear." "No," I said. He nodded, as if expecting it. "You don't understand the leverage." "Explain it," I said. Slowly. He leaned closer. "Your contracts. Your clients. Your reputation. All flexible." I shrugged. "I'll adapt." "You're ungrateful," he snapped. "We elevated you. You rented me." I corrected. "I'm returning the keys." One of the masked men muttered something. George shot him a look. Then back to me. "Sign a statement," he said. "Public reconciliation. Quiet filing. You keep your job. Your dignity." "My dignity isn't yours to keep," I said. He stared, jaw tight. "You think this ends well for you?" "I think it ends," I said. "That's enough." The van slowed. George studied me like a problem he didn't enjoy solving. "You're making a mistake." "I already made one," I replied. "I'm married into your family." The van stopped. The door slid open. Cold air rushed in. George gestured. "Let him out." I stood. My knees were steady. As I stepped onto the pavement, George added, "This was the polite conversation." I turned back. "Then I'm glad we had it." The door shut. The van pulled away. I stood alone under a flickering streetlight, hands shaking, not from fear, but from certainty. They'd tried control. They'd failed. I was pouring coffee the next morning when the knock came. Not loud, just firm, rehearsed. I opened the door and found 3 officers standing there, uniformed, no smiles. "Ethan Reed?" the lead one asked. "Yes." "You're under arrest." My hand froze midair. "For what?" "Details will be provided at the station." They stepped forward like a single moving wall. I backed up instinctively. "Hold on. I didn't do anything. You need to come with us, sir." I glanced around my apartment, eyes landing on the half-read newspaper, the jacket on the chair, the watch on the counter. "Claire's watch." "I'd like to call my lawyer," I said calmly. "You'll have access to a call," the officer replied. I nodded once. "Then let's get this over with." They cuffed me right there in the living room. No resistance. No explanation. Just tight metal and 1,000 invisible eyes watching from behind closed condo doors as I was escorted downstairs and shoved into the back of a squad car like a man with something to hide. The station was beige and sterile. They didn't yell. They didn't slam things. Just ran through a list of charges that made less sense the longer I listened. Unregistered data possession. Breach of private systems. Suspicion of corporate interference. I laughed, actually laughed. "I'm a tech consultant, not a spy." The officer didn't blink. "No bail," he added. "You're being processed for a 15-day hold. Judge approved it this morning." 15 days? I echoed. "Based on what evidence?" He didn't answer. They took my belt, my laces, my phone. Everything but my resolve. That night, in the cold holding cell, my lawyer, Deshaun Vega, showed up. Mid-40s. Clean suit, tired eyes, but razor sharp. He sat across from me, clipboard in hand, frowning. "This is messy," he said. "No kidding. No hard evidence. Just concerns." "But the judge who signed off? Used to clerk for George Holston. That's not a coincidence." I smiled slightly. "George doesn't like being told no." Deshaun nodded. "He's flexing. Trying to rattle you." "It won't work." He studied me for a moment. "You sure? They want to hold you for 2 weeks, and right now I can't poke a hole in it." "Then don't waste time here," I said. "Keep pushing the divorce forward. I'll wait." He raised an eyebrow. "Most guys I visit in holding are panicked. You look like you're waiting for a train." "I am," I said, "and I know exactly where it's going." Deshaun let out a dry laugh and stood. "You've got grit. I'll give you that." "Grit's all I've got left," I replied. That night, the lights never went fully off. Just a dim flicker overhead, buzzing faintly. The mattress was thin. The blanket was synthetic and smelled like bleach. But I slept. Not well. Not deeply. But with a clarity I hadn't felt in years. They could cage my body for 15 days. But they couldn't touch my name. They couldn't touch me. If this part resonates, give the video a thumbs up. By the third day, I'd stopped noticing the cold. You get used to it. The low hum of fluorescent lights, the stiff echo of footsteps in the corridor, the clatter of metal trays sliding across concrete. What you don't get used to is the waiting. Not the waiting for freedom, but for answers, for movement, for someone on the outside to remind you that you still exist in the real world. That person, for me, turned out to be Jenna. She came every afternoon, just after the guard's shift change. Always the same. Jeans, a jacket too thin for December, and a half-worn look on her face like she hadn't been sleeping much. We weren't allowed physical visits, just the old-fashioned kind. Concrete wall, glass, the cold smell of bleach. But Jenna insisted on coming anyway. Every day? Hey, she said one afternoon, sliding into the metal stool on the other side of the barrier. You look tired. I smirked. Great. That's exactly the energy I was going for. She didn't smile. Seriously, you holding up? I nodded, folding my arms as I leaned back against the cold wall behind me. I'm good. Jenna looked at me for a moment. Not like a friend. Not like an ex-friend of my wife. Just someone who knew exactly how deep betrayal could cut. Ethan, she said softly, can I ask you something? I glanced over, cautious but curious. You just did. I'm serious. So am I. I tilted my head. Go ahead. She lowered her voice, her tone shifting. Do you regret it? Regret what? Letting me in that day, she said, answering the door. Starting all of this. Because you could have just ignored me, Ethan. You could have closed your eyes and kept playing along. I didn't answer right away. I just stared through the smudged glass at a woman who had no reason to keep showing up, and yet here she was. I don't regret anything, I said finally. Jenna blinked. Nothing. Nope. You're in a cage, she said quietly. Your reputation's trashed online. Your name is being dragged through the dirt. Your wife's family has you branded like a criminal, and you're telling me you don't wish you'd just let the door stay shut? I'm telling you, I said, that the door wasn't the start of the problem. It was the end of the illusion. She looked down for a second, then up again. You really believe that? I have to. Because when a man stops defending himself, he starts erasing himself. And I didn't fight all these years just to vanish politely. Jenna leaned closer, her voice low. Claire's family plays dirty. You know that, right? I gave a small nod. So do I. But you're not like them. No, I said. I'm not. That's why I win. Jenna studied me for a moment, as if trying to see if I really meant it, or if I was just keeping myself sane. Then she leaned back and smiled faintly. Well, you wear quiet war like a suit. I'll give you that. I'm not at war, I replied. I'm just telling the truth louder than they're used to hearing it. She nodded slowly. I'll be back tomorrow. I know. Before she left, she pressed her palm against the glass. I didn't mirror it. I just watched her go, footsteps soft but determined as she walked back through the gray corridors. When the guard closed the steel door again behind me, the silence didn't feel like defeat. It felt like strategy. Let them think I was still. Still water runs deep. And I was already moving underneath. 15 days. 15 nights on a plastic mattress with a paper-thin blanket and nothing but time. 15 days to remember every warning I ignored. Every sideways glance Claire gave. Every carefully rehearsed sentence her father spoke like a man who'd never been told no. And then it was over. The cell door creaked open just after dawn, and the guard didn't even bother looking me in the eye. You're out. No one offered an apology. No explanation. No last-minute twist. Just a slow walk through the empty hallway, a manila envelope with my things, and a final buzz at the steel door. Outside, Seattle's winter morning air hit me like a wave, sharp, clean, honest. And there she was. Jenna stood at the curb, wrapped in a long gray coat, hair messy from the wind, holding a folded newspaper against her chest. Thought you might want a ride, she said, her eyes scanning my face like she was trying to gauge how much of me was left. I gave her a tired smile. I didn't doubt it. She didn't move to hug me, didn't say anything sentimental. Instead, she held out the paper. Front page. Full color. Clear as daylight. Claire Holston meltdown goes viral. I don't care who's filming. He was mine first. Below it, a still from a video, Claire screaming at a man outside a high-end restaurant, her makeup streaked, finger pointing like a dagger at a stunned, clearly younger guy in a designer coat. Comments already plastered online, dissecting every gesture, every word. Claire's mask, shattered in HD. I blinked once, then looked up. When was this? 2 nights ago, Jenna said. He tried to break it off. Public place. She snapped. And someone filmed it. Of course they did. Welcome to the digital age. I exhaled, long and quiet, letting the cold air clear out the remnants of the cell. How bad is it? For her? Terrible, Jenna said, stepping around to unlock the passenger door. For you? Very useful. I slid into the seat. The city looked the same, but everything felt different. Before I could even pull the seatbelt on, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. But I knew who it was. I answered. Vega. Welcome back to the land of the falsely accused, my lawyer said, voice dry and brisk. You've seen the footage, right? Just now. Good. We're filing an emergency motion. The court's moving fast. The judge is sympathetic. Seems someone else is sick of Holston theatrics. Claire. She's gone quiet. Her side scrambling. Your image is clean, Ethan. This helps us. A lot. I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. Keep the pressure on. I will, Vegas said. You'll hear from me by this afternoon. Be ready. He hung up. I stared out the window. It wasn't joy I felt. Not even relief. It was clarity. Jenna glanced over. What now? Now, I said, resting my head back against the seat. Now we finish it. She pulled away from the curb without a word. The city buzzed outside, oblivious to the quiet victory taking shape in the passenger seat of her car. I had walked into that holding cell a man buried under accusations. Now I was walking out of it a man with momentum. And for the first time since this began, I wasn't just reacting. I was steering. The courtroom didn't look like justice. It looked like beige walls, humming fluorescent lights, and worn carpet that smelled faintly of old coffee and disinfectant. But to me, it felt like a stage. A final one. And I knew exactly who was about to lose the script. Claire sat across the aisle from me, dressed in muted gray, no jewelry, no smiles. She hadn't even made eye contact since I walked in. Her lawyer, a sleek man in a dark suit with a permanent smirk, leaned close, whispering something that made her jaw twitch. George Holston sat 2 rows behind her, arms crossed, watching everything like a king forced to witness his castle burn. My lawyer, Deshaun Vega, sat beside me, flipping calmly through the documents one last time. He leaned toward me. We're not here to humiliate, just to reclaim what's owed. I'm not here to win, I said quietly. I'm here to end it. The bailiff called the room to order, and Judge Myers entered, an older woman with steely eyes and no time for theatrics. She adjusted her glasses, glanced down at the file, then up at us. We're here to finalize the matter of Reed versus Holston, she said. All financial disclosures and evidence have been reviewed. Claire's lawyer stood first, making a last-ditch appeal for a fair division and non-punitive outcome. His voice was calm, respectful, but I could hear the desperation tucked beneath it. He tried to spin Claire's public breakdown as a moment of emotional strain. He tried to frame the viral footage as taken out of context. He even had the nerve to call our marriage complicated but resilient. When he finished, Claire's shoulders were already tight. She didn't look up. Then Vega rose. His voice was steady and quiet. No flair, no drama. He let the facts do the talking. Claire Holston lied. She manipulated. She leveraged wealth and influence to discredit my client. When that failed, her father, Mr. George Holston, engaged in intimidation. False charges. False arrests. All of this is documented. What my client wants is not revenge. It is resolution. He paused and looked directly at the judge. And dignity. Judge Myers nodded slightly and turned to her clerk. Read the judgment. The young clerk stood and read from the sheet in his hand. His voice was clear. The court grants the petitioner, Ethan Reed, full dissolution of marriage. He is awarded $2 million in shared assets. All false allegations are formally dismissed and expunged. No spousal support is to be awarded to Claire Holston due to evidence of malice and manipulation. There was a long, stretching silence. Claire didn't move. Then her mouth opened just slightly. Your Honor, she said, her voice barely audible. May I speak? The judge nodded once. Claire stood slowly. Her hands trembled as she adjusted the hem of her jacket. Then she looked at me. Not the floor, not her lawyer me. I was cruel, she said. And not just at the end. I was cruel for a long time. The room felt breathless. I thought power protected me, that I could do whatever I wanted, and you'd stay. She gave a small, bitter laugh. But I didn't just push you away. I tried to ruin you. And for what? Control? Ego? I don't even know anymore. I said nothing. My face didn't change. She swallowed. You deserve better. That's not an apology. That's just truth. Then she turned to the judge. I accept the court's decision. The judge nodded. Then this matter is resolved. The gavel struck. Claire stepped back from the podium, her face pale, her hands empty. George rose suddenly, red-faced and silent, shooting me a glare like he'd swallowed poison. But I didn't flinch. Claire walked past me slowly. No fury. No attempt to recover dignity. She just moved like someone who knew she'd lost the one thing she thought she'd always control. And as she passed, she whispered without looking at me, I never thought you'd make it this far. I replied softly, that's the difference between surviving and pretending. She paused, but she didn't turn around. She kept walking. Out of the courtroom. Out of my life. The door clicked shut behind her. No applause. No satisfaction. Just silence. A kind of peace you only earn when the truth wins, and you no longer need to explain it to anyone. The city looked different from the 17th floor. Cleaner. Smaller. Like someone had lowered the volume on the noise. Vega's office was all glass and dark wood. Polished floors, soft lighting, framed degrees that probably scared more people than they comforted. But sitting there now, free, I didn't feel out of place. I felt settled. Vega slid a folder across the table. There's one last option. I didn't open it. Just looked at him. Suing George, he said. Emotional damages. Fabricated charges. We have enough to bury him in litigation. One of the younger associates, Amber, maybe 29, with sharp eyes, nodded eagerly. We can take it federal. His name will be toxic by summer. Vega added, and the settlement wouldn't be small. You've earned that right. I nodded slowly. I have. Silence. They were waiting. And maybe they expected me to say yes. Maybe most people would have. But I didn't come this far to keep pulling at a thread that finally broke. I'm not interested, I said. Amber blinked. You're declining? I'm declining, I said again, calmer this time. I've already won what matters. Vega tilted his head. Just to be clear, you're sure? I'm sure. He leaned back in his chair, then slowly closed the folder. All right. Amber looked disappointed, but I saw something else behind Vega's eyes. Respect. You don't want more, he said. You want distance. I want peace, I corrected. Not a war with a man who's already choking on his own name. I stood and extended my hand. Vega shook it. Most people want the last word, he said. I already said it, I replied. In court. In front of them all. And I didn't even have to raise my voice. He smiled. That's rare. I picked up my coat and headed toward the door. As I reached it, I paused and turned back once. Tell Amber I hope she gets to ruin someone else today. His laughter followed me into the hallway. Outside, the city moved on, horns blaring, crosswalks blinking, people living lives that didn't involve me anymore. Claire was gone. George would fume in private. And me? I was done. Not defeated. Not damaged. Done. 2 weeks later, I sat across from Jenna in a quiet restaurant tucked into the edge of downtown. Low lights, linen napkins, candle on the table flickering like it knew we'd both been through something heavy. She wore a navy sweater and no makeup. Just a simple look, but it carried something deeper, like she was done apologizing for taking up space. Do you feel lighter yet? She asked, swirling the wine in her glass. I smiled. Not lighter, just quieter inside. Jenna raised her glass slightly. To quiet. I touched mine to hers. To clean exits. The clink was soft, and we drank. For a moment, we didn't say anything. There was no pressure to. The silence wasn't cold like it had been with Claire. It wasn't uncomfortable. It just was. Everyone thinks victory is loud. Jenna said finally. Slam doors. Legal threats. Fireworks. But you walked out without even raising your voice. I wanted to, I admitted. I wanted to scream. To fight back with the same poison they used on me. But you didn't. No, I said. Because that's what they expected. Claire, her father. They live in a world where control means shouting over people. I didn't want to be part of that. Jenna studied me over the top of her glass. You could have taken more. You had the leverage. You could have burned them down. I didn't need to, I said, setting my glass down. They already did it to themselves. She nodded slowly. You know, there was a moment, when you were locked up, I thought you'd come out bitter, smaller, but somehow you came out, steadier. Sometimes when someone throws dirt on you, I said, they're just planting something they don't understand. She grinned at that. Look at you, going poetic. Don't get used to it. She leaned in a little. You sure you don't regret any of it? Not even letting me in that day? Not even a little, I said. She looked down, then back at me. Good. Because I think if you'd kept that door closed, they still would have found a way to crush you. You just would have faced it alone. I nodded. The waiter brought our food, set it down quietly, and disappeared. As we picked up our forks, Jenna said one last thing, quiet, but firm. You would have still won, even if you walked away with nothing. Because dignity? That's the part they can't fake. Or steal. And she was right. Because justice doesn't always roar. Sometimes it just sits across from you, sipping wine, in a restaurant that no one important owns, under a candle that burns slow and steady, just like you. That was the end of my story. And before you go, I keep thinking about one thing that still weighs on me. When Jenna chose to walk through my door and expose the truth, knowing it would blow everything up, did she do the right thing, or should she have stayed out of it? Let me know what you think in the comments. And if this story meant something to you, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what comes next.